Are you craving a trip on Space Mountain? Well, we've got the next best thing. Welcome to Disney Coast to Coast.
Hey folks, and welcome to Disney Coast to Coast, the ultimate unofficial Disney fan podcast. I'm Jeff DePauli, and today on the show I have a chat with my friend Derek about our experience at the Disneyland After Dark 80s NITE special event. From the recreation of Disneyland's Videopolis to a Honey, I Shrunk the Kids photo op and everything in between, we discuss it all and travel back to the 80s right after this. This episode of Disney Coast to Coast is brought to you by members of the DCTC community over at Patreon. I'd like to give a shout out to new patron Kent Wilson, who went over to patreon.com/DisneyCTC to check out all of the bonuses available, like live stream Q&As, early episode releases, and so much more. Kent ultimately decided to join the community and support this podcast at the same time. Are you next? If you enjoy Disney Coast to Coast, head on over to patreon.com/DisneyCTC and check out all of the bonuses waiting for you. That's patreon.com/DIZNEYCTC. Once again, that's patreon.com/DIZNEYCTC.
Get ready for a special conversation about a Disney special event.
Derek, we are here. We went to 80s NITE at Disneyland, and I've got one thing to say.
What? What's that?
I'm going to the top.
Videopolis?
That is correct. Oh my gosh. I think that was probably the highlight of the night, but we're not going to start there. We're just going to start overall. This was your first Disneyland After Dark event. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Because you've done like the Halloween party and stuff.
Yes.
That's not really, it's not under that umbrella of Disneyland After Dark. I will preface this by saying throughout the episode, I will be comparing it a lot to 90s NITE, which I did last year. Folks, if you didn't listen to my episode about 90s NITE, it is episode 613 of Disney Coast to Coast. So when you hear me comparing, that's what I'm talking about. 90s NITE was incredible last year. So this 80s NITE, you know, they've continued this Disneyland After Dark. We get in the park at 6 p.m. The event officially starts at 9 p.m. till 1 a.m.
Right.
And it's a fun special event. I gotta say though, right from the start, the giveaway was not nearly as cool as 90s NITE.
Yes.
So we come in and they gave us, you can explain.
They gave us basically a giant 80s lanyard that looked like a cassette.
Yeah, it was like a lanyard credential, and the backside of it looked like a cassette. To be honest, I actually really like those items. I have tons of credentials, lanyards from like press events and stuff, and I keep them all.
Yeah.
So I think that they're cool, but based on last year's gift at 90s NITE, as a 90s NITE fanny pack.
A fanny pack?
Yes.
Over a lanyard? Yeah, no, a fanny pack wins.
Yeah, so it was like a much more specific to the theme item last year, and frankly, more expensive item. So that was kind of a bummer just right at the beginning. It's like I said, it's fun, it's cool, it's just not as like, whoa, when everybody saw those fanny packs, it was like, what? We're getting fanny packs? And
well, I thought that was just our ticket around to say like, hey, you're in, and then you were
that was supposed to be a gift.
Yeah, so I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, so I do want to start this with entertainment because when it comes to these events, that is my focus, that is my priority. It seemed like it was in your case as well, kind of that night. Yeah, so let's just start with some of the simpler stuff. We had Dancing in the Streets with DJ Wendy. If you go to Disneyland often, you are familiar with DJ Wendy. She's a cool gal.
I loved it.
Pumping the 80s
jam.
music.
Yes, I loved it.
There's just always something weird and awesome about hearing non-Main Street USA music.
I was just talking to someone about that. Exactly that.
Yeah, it's like a weird vibe. It's kind of like you feel like you're disobeying your parents or something.
They're like, ooh, it's after hours. They know. Or like it's Footloose, speaking of the 80s. It's just like that.
It's Footloose, that's right. And they did do, I will say the map projection stuff that they do for these nighttime events are really cool.
Beyond cool.
It gives a totally different vibe on Main Street.
Yeah.
Super simple, but it's cool. It's there.
Yeah.
So that was on Main Street USA. The 80s All-Stars, who for a very long time were a staple of Tomorrowland Terrace at Disneyland. They're an 80s cover band. They're fun, they're wacky, they're wild. This time they were over in the Rivers of America.
Yeah.
And they were fun. I enjoyed them. It was great to see them back in the park. You'd seen them before, right?
I keep thinking I did, but I get them mixed up with what's that one group called that you?
Not Thomasina.
Yeah, Thomasina. I always get them mixed up with Thomasina.
No, Thomasina is her own thing.
Oh, she's amazing.
she's something.
I was excited to walk over there, and I was like, oh yeah, Thomasina, and then I went, oh wait, no, I always get them mixed up.
Yeah, I know, the 80s All-Stars. So they're cool. The only thing is, like, they put them out on the barge.
Yeah.
In the Rivers of America, and they do this a lot for special events. I'm not particularly a fan of this.
Right.
When it comes to live music or even DJs, like, the fun part is being in it.
Oh, of course.
And to make them further away seems like a weird choice.
Yeah, no, I agree with you.
So I would have preferred if they just set up a stage right on the, the pavement in front of the Rivers of America.
Me too.
And do that. But, it was fun nonetheless. So those were some other simpler things we've seen a lot of at Disneyland. Then we get to some stuff very specific and special for this 80s night event. And Totally Mini, you're on DTV Video Shoot. This was over at the Tomorrowland Terrace, and I will say a lot of this is just like DJ stuff.
Yeah.
So there was a DJ over there playing the 80s tunes. The thing that made this one unique was at the top of every hour, the characters came out. You had Minnie, you had Donald, you had Goofy, and I think Pluto as well, if I'm remembering correctly. Right. And they were all, 80s out.
Yep.
And dancing and grooving, and frankly, like having a really good time, it looked like.
Right, yeah.
The characters seemed to be having like as much fun, if not more, than the guests, which was kind of wild. I think I saw a conga line start at one point.
Yeah, Goofy, I believe, started it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was fun. So that was fun. Totally. DTV was like Disney's take on MTV.
Yes.
So they used to mash up music with like old Disney clips.
Yes.
And, I think Minnie was the icon for that or something. I don't particularly remember that. I think it was a Disney Channel
Well,
thing,
have you seen the Totally Mini TV special?
No.
Okay, so that's exactly what they're referencing, and it was a special in the 80s, and it was all about this nerdy guy that went to Minnie's, I forget the name of it, but cool, you became cool when you walked in, so it was...
Okay.
Yeah, it was this fun little TV special, and it had different clips of 80s videos in it, and
I don't remember. Was that like a one-off thing, or was this a series?
No, I believe it was just a one-off thing, and it is not on Disney Plus.
It's not on Disney Plus.
So
See, this is the type of stuff we're waiting for.
Exactly.
On Disney Plus. Yes. So that was over at the Tomorrowland Terrace. Now, major complaint I have. Unfortunately, the awesome After Dark fireworks to the max were canceled.
Yes.
This was not a surprise, unfortunately. It was a windy night.
Very windy.
And if you go to Disneyland frequently, there's probably somewhere around a 35 to 40% chance that your fireworks are going to be canceled on any given night.
Very much so.
There are a lot of locals' homes nearby, so I understand the reasoning why. My complaint is this. Number one, during 90s night, the fireworks were, I think, my favorite part of the night. Like, they did fireworks to the Disney afternoon theme songs, to Powerline, Goofy movie stuff.
Oh, that's awesome.
And it was incredible. So I was like, cool, what are they going to do for 80s night? This is going to be awesome.
Yeah.
Like I said, when we showed up, it was windy. So when they announced that it was canceled, I wasn't surprised. My argument is this. With these special events, there are only so many specialty things going on.
Right.
And so when you're using something big like a fireworks show to promote your one night only event, it's a real problem when the fireworks are canceled. This isn't like you just spent 12 hours in the park. This is a 4-hour event you're paying $109 for. Yeah. So I don't know. I feel like in the future, there should be no fireworks ever advertised as being part of the event.
Right, yeah.
If they want to do something like that, I'd say do a projection show. I understand the costs are probably more expensive as far as, animating new sequences and stuff. So I get that.
Yeah.
I'd rather, if that were the case, to be like, well, just do them all in DCA and give us a World of Color or something like that. I don't know.
I agree. I mean, it's basically this night, the two biggest things were the fireworks show and Videopolis being there. And if you were not a fan of 80s music or dancing, I don't know why you'd go to 80s night, but if you didn't get that, it's kind of a letdown a little bit. Yeah,
it was a pretty big letdown, and we got the surveys. I filled out the survey after, and one, they obviously ask your opinions and what you think stuff. And I genuinely think I don't ever expect this to happen,
right?
But I do genuinely think if you're paying a lot of money for a special event that's 4 hours long and one of your main centerpieces is canceled.
Yep.
You should get like a $10 food voucher or something.
Oh, completely.
You should be paid back in some way, shape, or form.
Exactly.
And, the Fast Pass isn't going to do it in this case because most of the lines are short.
Yeah.
Unless it's a Fast Pass for a character, but then that would be problematic with everybody. You should get a food voucher or you should get money back in some way. They're not going to give you money back, which is why a gift card or a food voucher or something I think is a fair way of doing it.
I agree with you. But
I think that would be smart just to not make fireworks part of these events anymore.
Or if they are, like you said, do a projection show.
Yeah. I imagine that's time consuming and expensive. And the thing for me is like the thing I'm most bummed about is it's not even that I didn't get to see the pyrotechnics. It's that I didn't get to hear the music medley that they made.
That's sad.
I would have rather they just blast that music and be like, all right, and like, just flash some lights and play the music. I wanted to hear that medley because it was so good. For all we know, they could have played like the theme score from Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, and we wouldn't even know it.
I'm personally Gummy Bears. I'm hoping they would have played
Gummy Bears. They probably would have played some Mousercise, is my guess. Come on, everybody, and Mousercise.
That'd be awesome.
Mickey Mousercise.
They might have played the Videopolis theme song.
They could have played the Videopolis theme song. We will get to that fabulousness. But yes, I'm really actually dying to know. So if anybody out there is listening, and happens to know or gotten their hands on that soundtrack, I just want to hear it. So yeah, major bummer of the night. Fireworks canceled.
Well, that's the other thing too that I find funny is that they made this soundtrack for the fireworks show. And they're never going to play it. I
mean, unless they do another 80s night,
right?
Which this one did not sell out.
It did not.
So I would not be surprised if the decades might be done. Somebody did bring up an interesting point, and I even thought it that night. So 90s night sold out, was very successful.
Right.
80s night, like, let's face it, we're kind of the generation before this is geared toward. It's really people in their 40s that grew up in the 80s. Right. We were very young in the 80s.
Yes.
Loved the 80s, but I mean, I never got older than 7 in the 80s. So it's really the generation ahead of us, and those people are in bed. They're not.
It was a Wednesday night.
It was a Wednesday night from 9 p.m. to 1 a.m.
Yep.
So I think that might have been part of it.
Oh, big time.
And so I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see 80s night again.
Exactly.
But we'll see. I don't know. So in any case, that was the fireworks. Now the big piece of entertainment that was, I gotta say, shocking to me. I knew I was looking forward to it.
Right.
And I don't think you knew what we were getting ourselves into either.
No.
Okay.
Not at all.
Flashback to Videopolis. Videopolis, let's give a brief history. I know you've been, since going to Videopolis, we have dug deep. We're literally for days, me, you, and our friend Preston would just text each other and be like, I'm going to the top. Videopolis. Their theme song's unbelievable, but why don't you give a very brief history of what Videopolis is?
Sure. So back in the 80s, I believe 1985 specifically, Michael Eisner had the idea of making kind of to attract the teens to come to Disneyland and have essentially a dance club, and where Mickey and the Magical Map is now, that's where Videopolis once stood.
One thing I didn't realize was that was built for Videopolis.
Yes,
I thought it was a stage that was used for other stuff and then was turned into Videopolis, but that stage that has been used for so much stuff since then was built for Videopolis. Very cool.
Yeah.
And it was essentially an MTV club.
Oh, completely, with videos and, of course, the dance music and bringing the kids and the teenagers in there. And I believe they were offering something in the summers that people were saying where it was only $40 to get in, and you could go to the park in the night and then do Videopolis.
Yeah,
so.
It was after a certain hour you could get in at a discounted rate.
Yeah.
And it was very successful in that sense.
Yeah.
There was a lot of controversy surrounding it around same-sex couples dancing together, which became an issue, and gangs and stuff like that. It became a problem, but it was a success. It did exactly what Michael Eisner wanted it to do.
Exactly, yeah.
It made teenagers want to come to Disneyland, which at the time was a problem.
Yeah.
So I would love to see it come back in some way, shape, or form.
I want this to come back once a month on a Saturday night.
Yeah.
I would love that.
Yeah, so Flashback to Videopolis was very cool. Now, like I said, I didn't know there was a Videopolis theme song, but this I'm going to the top, Videopolis is like the catchy. It's
so catchy.
Catchier than a Sherman Brothers tune.
Oh, God, yeah.
Like, it was in my head for days.
Loved it.
and they had dancers come out at the top of every hour.
Yeah.
These Videopolis dancers came out, 80s to the max in their wardrobe and their dance moves.
Oh, God, yes.
And perfection.
Beyond perfection.
And it was funny because they were doing such 80s dance moves, and I thought to myself, these are young dancers.
Yeah.
Like, how do they even know these dance moves? I was wondering, were these hard to learn? They did it perfectly.
They did have videotape back then, so maybe they...
Oh, I understand that, but I'm just like, those aren't moves that you're used to doing.
Not at all,
and they look like they've been doing them their entire lives,
yeah.
is kind of what I'm getting at.
I tried to mimic him all night. I was like, can I do it? No.
And they even had, like, back in the day during Videopolis, they used to have cameramen there because they would... Essentially, if there was like a naughty part of the music video, they would cut away to the dancers with these
is that
live.
why they did that?
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah. So they had these live cameramen like going through the dance floor, and they had that night.
That was.
They
cool.
used all the digital screens on the Magical Map, background stage platform thingy, and made them all like TV monitors.
Yep.
Like it was done really well.
Really well.
And, they brought in these neon lights that were just perfect.
Live DJ.
Live DJ was fun.
Yep.
A lot of, Michael Jackson, Madonna. One complaint, I didn't hear a single New Kids on the Block song that night.
No.
I know that they were the late 80s, but come on. They had, I think Step by Step might have been 89, maybe 88.
Still, so good. So classic.
I know. We needed some New Kids on the Block for sure.
Yeah.
That didn't happen. Maybe the Fireworks Spectacular was all New Kids on the Block. I'm actually a little surprised because New Kids and Disney have a pretty rich history.
Yeah, they do.
I just bought, did I tell you about the poster?
Yes.
I'll tell the listeners. Yes. So I found on eBay an old Disney Channel poster, and it was one of those posters advertising the free trials that they used to give on Disney Channel back before, it was part of basic cable. Yeah. Oh gosh, I loved those free. I really looked forward to those free trials.
Oh yeah.
And the poster was advertising what was coming up with the free trial. It was Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, New Kids on the Block. Behind the scenes of Dick Tracy and Jim Henson's Mother Goose stories.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, this is made for me.
I know. It's like those are 4 things I would say Jeff DePauli.
Yeah. So I bought it on eBay.
You have to.
Yeah. Well, it was really one of those things I'm like, I will never see this again.
Yeah,
like this is not something, if I'm looking for like a Honey, I Shrunk the Kids VHS tape, those are up all the time.
Right.
This was something I'd never seen. I was like, I'm buying this thing. This thing's great.
Love it.
So yeah, Videopolis, like just the perfect vibe. And, I would say a good amount of people dressed up for this night. You were all 80s out. Tell the folks how you were dressed.
Well, I decided to go as my favorite character from the 80s as of right now, and that was 11 from Stranger Things at the end, where she's wearing her yellow shirt with black suspenders.
There we go. And I dusted off my old Blockbuster Video uniform.
He got so many compliments.
I mean, it's an epic costume.
It's so epic.
I'm going to say it's my go-to comfort costume now.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie. I know there are people who are super into cosplay and all that stuff. I'm not really.
Right.
And if I do dress up, I'm always like, it's got to be comfortable. That's why I wear my Newsies thing a lot.
God,
I'm like, this is super comfortable.
Yeah.
Like, it's fun and it's comfortable. So my Blockbuster Video uniform, super comfy, super on point for the thing. And like if I, next Halloween party I go to, I'm dressing up as Blockbuster.
Completely.
Like I did have a Honey, I Shrunk the Kids button on there. Maybe for Halloween I'll do like Hocus Pocus button or something. Nice. Something like that. But it was fun to dust off that uniform from so many years ago.
Well, I didn't realize how tricky I hadn't worn suspenders since the 80s and how tricky that was in all night. And of course, 11 does it with a crisscross, and I was just like, this is more complex than I thought it would be. So
the 80s were hard.
A hard time.
I haven't worn suspenders since I was probably like 6 years old.
Right, yeah.
I don't
either.
I don't never worn them as an adult.
Yeah, they were quite interesting.
Alrighty. So, Videopolis, I mean, anything else you want to say in particular about Videopolis? It was grand and wonderful.
I loved it. I was more surprised at how many... I knew every single song, so
I did not.
Me.
Well, here's the... You know the 80s really well.
I do.
And I keep saying... You're shocked when I'm like... I'll be like, I've never heard this song. You're shocked. And I'm like, why would I know this? I was 5, 6, 7 years old.
Well, I did...
The question is, why do you know this?
My sister was 4 years older than me, and I had 2 older half-brothers, and they loved 80s freestyle. Okay. So I grew up hearing 80s freestyle. I heard, all the classics, Madonna, Michael Jackson, the staples, New Kids on the Block.
All the stuff I do know is definitely because of my older siblings, and I will say that like some of the soundtracks from the 80s are etched in my brain forever. Dirty Dancing, Footloose, Stand By Me.
Oh, yes. 3
of the best movie, regardless of whether or not you like the movies.
Oh, God, yes.
3 of the best movie soundtracks of all time, and so many of those songs are just iconic 80s.
Epic, yeah.
So I love that so much. The other thing that was at Videopolis, and I wasn't familiar with this until after doing some research, Yums.
I heard about Yums.
Yeah, so they turned one of their food stands over by the Fantasyland Theater into Yums. You didn't see that sign?
I didn't see that.
Oh, okay. That night, as we're like exiting, by the way, I should mention, we went to Videopolis like 3 times.
Yes.
We started our night there.
Yes.
We went back in the middle of the night, and then we ended the night there at 1 a.m.
Yeah.
So obviously Videopolis was like a happening place. It was cool. And yeah, as you exited or entered, they had Yums. They basically...
where the bathrooms are?
Yeah, where the bathrooms
okay.
are, which is like, normally sells pretzels and stuff.
Yeah.
They put up a sign that said Yums, which was the name of the food place that was there. This is actually the first place that a churro was ever served at a Disney park back in 1985. So we have Yums to thank for that. And of course, they continued the tradition on 80s night. So that was fun.
Totally.
Like, they really did it right. Like, it felt to me with Videopolis, somebody that went through that was in charge of that.
Completely. I mean, there's just something, because I've gone to dance clubs since getting older, and just the fact that there was a dance club at Disneyland, I just think is the coolest thing.
Yeah, they should just like turn all of Toontown into a dance club at night.
Oh,
I'd be for it.
I'd be there.
Yeah, so I will say a friend of the show, Rick West, who has been on the show several times, he grew up working at Disneyland at Pirates and going to Videopolis at night. And he messaged me, because I had posted some stuff on Instagram, and he messaged me saying, typically I'm not into like these recreation sort of things.
Right.
He goes, this Videopolis looks on point.
Oh, my God.
It was crazy. So it's kind of cool to hear that somebody that lived it, even just through video, was like, wow, you're doing it right. You're bringing back memories. And it was cool. It was perfect. I do think it should come back.
I hope so.
Like, even just summer nights or something.
Oh my God, I would love to do that on a summer night.
They did take out like the first, if you're familiar with the space, Fantasyland Theater where Mickey and the Magical Map is, they took out the first few rows of seats. So there was more space for a dance floor. How hard that is, I'm not sure, because I think that the party was on a night where Mickey and the Magical Map doesn't typically have a show.
Oh, okay.
So they had like extra time to deal with that. So I don't know if if they did it on a Saturday night or something, if they'd be like, we don't have enough time for the turnover. I'm not sure.
Could be.
I was a little surprised, though, seing when they built Videopolis, there were benches there. There was just a lot fewer in the front. So I don't know. Videopolis, I'm going to the top.
I'm going
to the top. Videopolis.
I also just want to say, I did like the fact that they did ask at the beginning of the night of Videopolis. They were like, has anyone was actually here in the 80s? And there were a few people there that actually went there in the 80s.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure there were people like super reliving their childhood that night. Yeah. So, that's fun. That's fun. That was pretty much the live entertainment for the night. Mm-hmm. And bravo. That's the stuff that I enjoy the most. I loved it. Of course, there are characters over in Critter Country. We had some Briar Patch Friends. Of course, Splash Mountain opened in 1989. That's something cool that they do at these events with the meet and greets and the themed stuff that they do. It's all about obviously Disney movies that opened in the 80s as well as the attractions opening in the 80s. So that's kind of fun. In Fantasyland, they called it Ariel and Friend. When I walked by, it was Sebastian with her, and it was Ariel in her tail. And of course, that film came out in 1989. I don't know if Sebastian swapped out during the night, but I think it was just him. Pinocchio and Jiminy Cricket were in Fantasyland. Why were they in Fantasyland in the 80s? Because it's certainly not an 80s movie.
No.
Why were they there? This could have been the trivia question today.
Oh, I should. Is that when the ride opened?
It is. 1983 is when Fantasyland got a major overhaul, and that is when Pinocchio's Daring Journey opened.
Wow.
And then Roger Rabbit was there. Now, this was one thing that drove me nuts. Now, typically on a typical night, Toontown does close early.
Right.
And for a couple of reasons. Number one, it's geared toward a younger audience, and, they're going home. And or the fireworks, it's kind of, in the way of pyro launch. So I do get that. But when you have an 80s themed night,
Right.
and you have an entire land themed after a movie from the 80s.
Yes.
Listen, I know it's Mickey's Toontown and not Roger Rabbit's Toontown, but let's face it, Toontown is something from Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
Exactly.
You do not close that land.
No.
Even if they had just
Kept the ride open.
closed the houses and everything.
Yeah.
If they had blocked it, if they had roped off so that you could only go to the Roger Rabbit cartoon spin, which is toward the front of Toontown,
Right.
I would have been cool with that. Instead, they closed the gates like normal, and you could meet Roger in front of the gates. But huge missed opportunity, in my opinion, closing Roger Rabbit's cartoon spin.
Yeah.
Another thing that they coulda, shoulda, woulda done was Captain EO. I feel like should have been back. During the 80s Night episode, we mentioned how we wished Honey, I Shrunk the Audience had been put back. Instead, they didn't do anything with it. The theater sat empty. So I think Captain EO would have been fun to bring back for that.
I would love that.
So, I don't know. Yeah, definitely. It's this weird fine balance of like, this is the budget we have for this special event. And so they make choices, and I get that, but some things I'm just like, is it really that hard to do X, Y, and Z? The ride exists. I understand you have to pay people to operate it.
Agreed.
But let's face it, and not that I would want this to replace Videopolis, but keeping Cartoon Spin open is much cheaper than building a Videopolis, So, I don't know. Some weird decisions made, I would say.
Yeah.
Now, some characters you actually met. Some Ewoks.
I met some Ewoks.
Which I don't think I've ever seen at Disneyland. I've definitely seen them back in the day at Disney MGM Studios when that first opened. I vividly can visualize right now a picture of my brother with one of the Ewoks.
Oh, wow.
Here's one thing that bothers me.
Yeah.
Why aren't we getting little people for this?
Good question.
Why are we getting Mickey Mouse-sized people? I want some real LPs in those suits. Like...
I posted pictures of me with the Ewok, and
he's like as big as you.
Yeah, and everyone said the same exact thing. They're like, "Why aren't little people in those?"
Yeah, I'm sure there are little people out there who want some Ewok employment.
Yes,
there were a bunch of them in the movie, so that always bothered me because I even remember like the Ewok being bigger than my brother. Granted, he was a kid, but like they should have been shorter than him even then.
Agreed.
So that's annoying. But you did meet them. How long-ish did you wait for that?
I did. It was about an hour.
An hour. Okay. Yeah. Now, I will say that one of the big complaints during 90s Night was with characters. I don't think these characters were that unique. You mentioned Ewoks. Actually, let me get through the rest of these characters. The DuckTales friends.
Yes.
They had Huey, Dewey, and Louie.
Yes.
And then they would swap out with Scrooge McDuck and Launchpad.
Yep.
Which is kind of cool. And I'll get back to that in a second. Mickey Mouse in his Mouser-sized costume was there.
Yes.
R2-D2 was traveling around Galaxy's Edge.
I didn't even see him.
Yeah, he's out regularly. So, these are characters that aren't super rare other than the Ewoks and, Huey, Dewey, and Louie. I'm like, I've seen these other ones around before. Mickey in a Mouser-sized costume, not so much, but you see Mickey everywhere. So, I don't know. To me, they weren't like, I gotta get this. I did fight for, and by fight for, I mean tweeted about, I legitimately wanted a Wayne Zielinski in Pixie Hollow with those giant grass blades.
Oh my God, that would have been genius.
That is perfect, and that movie's 1989, and y'all should be doing that, but they didn't do it. There is something Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, though, which was shocking and wonderful.
Yeah.
So I think the lines weren't as insane. For 90s Night, like with Darkwing Duck or, Max dressed as Powerline, these lines were like 2 and 3 hours long.
Yeah, I'd heard.
They were insane. So overall, it seemed like the line control was much better.
Yes.
And/or people were just much less interested. I don't 100% know which it was.
Right.
But one thing I saw that was a huge improvement from 90s Night was, so at 90s Night, for example, there was a photo spot, and the swap out would be Max dressed as Powerline, and Goofy from a Goofy movie, and they would each do half-hour sets.
Okay.
So if you were in line waiting for Max, which 99% of the people were, and Goofy comes out, Goofy was getting booed.
Oh,
and
no.
It's just like, I waited in this line for 2 hours, I'm waiting for Max. So it became a huge problem.
Right.
In the case of DuckTales, where you had Launchpad and Scrooge, and then Huey, Dewey, and Louie separately, they formed 2 separate lines.
Okay.
So you knew which line you were in, you knew which characters you were going to meet. you still had to wait for the trade-off,
right?
But there was none of this.
Oh, that's smart.
And so that really was a huge improvement. I'm always happy when I see problems in the parks resolved. Not making the same mistakes twice. And Disney's pretty good at that, but sometimes I was like, what are you doing? But yeah, so that was definitely a massive improvement. I didn't wait for any characters. It's never a priority for me. With only 4 hours, even an hour in line is too much.
Yeah.
The photo opportunities I do take advantage of are kind of, I guess, like their prop or background photo ops.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So, like, we got to meet Rex from Star Tours.
Yes, that's correct.
They had just a cool, like, Rex, the pilot from the original Star Tours, which, of course, opened in 1987. They had him out, and that was like a 10-minute queue.
Yeah,
to get your picture with them. By the way, at these events, it's very cool because Photo Pass is free. All of your photos are included with the admission, so that's really nice. And that was a fun one. And then there was the epic one, which... Okay, so one of the complaints I had early in the night was that they're over by the It's a Small World mall area.
Yes.
It was empty.
Yes.
And I kept saying, I think you probably remember, I was bummed because during 90s Night, they did such a cool job recreating Afternoon Avenue from back in the day.
Yeah.
And they had the balloons out and all these like kind of picture backdrops with, like the cardboard cutouts sort of picture, not cardboard in their case, but the cutouts of the characters that you could take pictures with. And I loved it. It was so much fun. I was like, this feels so empty. I wish that they had done something similar. Well, they were supposed to do something similar.
Yes, they were.
But if you remember, earlier I mentioned how windy it was, hence the fireworks being canceled, and hence these photo ops being moved to the Opera House where Lincoln is.
Yes.
Because they were worried about these giant set pieces being knocked over in the wind. And when I say giant, they were probably about 15 feet tall,
They were huge,
15 to 20 feet, I would say.
Yeah.
And they are giant VHS tapes. And what was one of them? Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
Yes.
Ugh. God bless Disney Plus for sponsoring this portion of 80s Night.
Yes.
This was epic. I didn't know about this.
He did
and
not.
somebody, mutual friend situation was like, oh, there's a Honey, I Shrunk the Kids photo op over at Lincoln. And I honestly thought they were screwing with me.
Yeah.
I was like, don't tease me that way. That's not cool.
Yeah.
And so I asked a cast member, and she's like, oh, yeah, I was supposed to. We were over at It's a Small World at the time. They're like, yeah, it was supposed to be here. It got moved to the Opera House.
Right.
And I was like, are you kidding me? So I beelined it.
We all ran
to the Opera House. And here was the other cool thing about that. It wasn't like a one-off photo op. You were in like a 10-minute line, and then you got about, six photos?
Yeah, about that.
There were all these giant VHS tapes, and we got Splash.
Yes.
All 80s stuff, of course. The Black Cauldron.
Mm-hmm. Fox and the Hound.
Fox and the Hound. What else was there? There was Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, of course.
Oliver and Company.
Oliver and Company, that's right. And that might have been it. Maybe one other?
I want to say, yeah, I think that was everything.
That might have been it.
Yeah.
So these were awesome.
Yeah.
I legitimately wanted to take the Honey, I Shrunk the Kids one home. I don't know how I would have gotten it there, but it was just so cool, especially since I was in like a Blockbuster Video uniform.
I
was like,
about that. Yeah.
This is perfect. I thank you to the cast members, the lovely cast members who saw my Honey, I Shrunk the Kids button. Plus, I pretty audibly freaked out at the fact that there was a Honey, I Shrunk the Kids photo. And they definitely took extra time with me and posed me in various poses and let me have my fun.
Yeah, totally. And I love it because they did it every year, I think from 85 to 89.
Okay.
Because you could see on the back of them, they put Disney and then 1989 for Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. So try to get every year in the 80s.
Yeah, so, VHS.
Oh, God.
That was a highlight. That pumped me full of energy.
Yeah, it definitely did.
And that was awesome.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just, there's obviously a lot of Honey, I Shrunk the Kids news happening right now with this.
Yeah.
I love what they're calling this. I don't know if this is Disney calling it or some article just wrote this, but it's not just a sequel. It's a legacy-quel.
Oh,
it's a legacy sequel. I'm like, this is a new thing. A legacy sequel? I don't think I've ever heard that before.
I can say I've definitely not.
A legacy sequel.
But I like it.
I like that perhaps Honey, I Shrunk the Kids is the first to have a legacy sequel.
Yeah.
And I am all for that.
Well, I mean, if you do think about it, Disney, when they make their brands, they have these legacies that transcend time.
Yeah, and, typically the term reboot is used a lot.
Yes.
this is not a reboot. This is a sequel, and it's a Lego sequel. I love it. So whether or not it's Disney, I don't know using that term, but I love the term, and I will continue to use it. So my point is, I just love whenever Honey, I Shrunk the Kids is represented. Anybody who's been listening for any period of time knows that this is no surprise. Did I get my Wayne Szalinski photo op? No, I did not. But I got a nice Honey, I Shrunk the Kids photo op.
It's very nice.
But Pixie Hollow was wasted. Let's just say.
That would have been smart.
Perfect. Even if it was just a giant lawnmower there, that would have worked.
Or Auntie, if they just had
Auntie.
the face.
Oh my gosh, where is Auntie from the Honey, I Shrunk the Kids movie set adventure?
Exactly.
Where is she? I want to know. Backstage at DCA, we got all those bugs from A Bug's Land just hanging out, chilling.
Oh, that's right.
Where is Auntie? I have a feeling she's destroyed. I have a feeling she's in a dumpster.
Yeah.
I have a feeling she's Ash. I am not cool with that,
No.
Disney.
Or a giant Oreo. Just throw something.
A giant Oreo. Yes,
Yeah.
Pixie Hollow is too perfect for Honey, I Shrunk the Kids to not be used on 80s Night.
I agree.
Folks, come on. Anyway, let's move on, shall we? Were there any other photo ops that like really stood out to you? There was one of like kind of a giant book with a map that was all right.
Yeah, of Fantasyland from 1982 and 1983.
Yeah, and so they have some of those around. They're cool. Photos are not my priority unless it's something that I'm obsessed with.
Right, exactly. And that was honestly the biggest reason why I took the photo of the Ewoks. Number one, I didn't know that the Ewoks existed in Disneyland as a photo op, even in the past, but also it was like, what else is there to do?
Yeah.
Not that I didn't enjoy myself, and I love Videopolis.
Well, one thing I will say, though, that was kind of cool with that photo op was there was another photo
two.
op with it.
Yeah.
With I forget what that ice monster thing's called. The beginning of Empire Strikes Back, the thing that Luke chops the arm off of. Now, that wasn't a walk-around character. It was like a statue of sorts. But they had like the little cave cut out and with the lightsaber sticking out. So like, I like the fact that in the case of the VHS tapes, you got 5 photo ops for one line.
Right.
In the case of the Ewoks, you got 2 photo ops for one line. You know, I like that. I think that's great. I think that they really did well with photo ops. Other than the fact that I didn't find them all that particularly interesting for the most part.
No.
And once again, this might have just been because the event didn't sell out. Like, maybe it was just low attendance, and therefore that's why...
It could be.
It didn't feel like that dead or anything. I'd be curious to know, like, did they sell 90%? Did they sell 50%? Like, I don't know.
Right.
But I would be kind of curious to know... just because I'd like to gauge and wonder how it's doing. And
yeah, definitely.
whether or not we'll see it return. Of course, during these nights, food is a thing that people go crazy over. I did have one of the 80s themed foods. This was over at the Red Rose Tavern in Fantasyland. I had the Sloppy Joe specialty burger. It was fine.
Yeah.
One complaint I will make, though, is, I was like at the cash register, or the cast member at the cash register. I'm like, so what's in this? I'm picky when it comes to like pickles, mustard.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't want anything to do with it.
Not a fan.
So I need to know what's in these things. And they had no idea. And no
idea.
Cast members, oh, this is a specialty item for tonight. I'm not sure. Well, I know it's a specialty item for tonight.
Right.
Therefore, a lot of people are going to be ordering this. Therefore, you should probably at least have the ingredients in front of you. It's not like they had that. It's not like it was a full menu of specialty items.
Yeah.
So that kind of drives me nuts. And I don't like it when I get answers like that. I'm like, this is kind of important on tonight.
Yeah.
So...
That's a little shocking.
So they didn't know. But in any case, I got it. I eventually found out, but it was a thing. Like, they had to go back into the kitchen and find out. And I got it. It was fine. It was good. It was a little spicy.
Yeah.
It did come with like a mix of regular tater tots and like cheesy tater tots.
Really?
I don't remember cheesy tater tots in the 80s, but they're delicious. Oh, big fan of that.
I got, I forget the name. I think it was called the Celebration Cake.
Where was this?
That was at French Quarter.
French
Market, I'm sorry.
So that was over in New Orleans Square. Let me see. The Dining French Market Restaurant. The Sprinkle Celebration Cake.
Yes.
That's right. You were very excited about the Sprinkle Celebration Cake. In fact, we went before it was even available. It was like 8 p.m. or something like that. Well, it doesn't technically start till 9, but let's just go check.
Yeah.
It wasn't ready. But was it good?
No, it was.
Oh.
It
was cake.
It was a regular piece of cake.
Yeah. None of this food was particularly exciting.
No.
The Bengal barbecue had a teriyaki glazed spiced ham and pineapple skewer rice plate.
Yeah.
Critter Country had the HBLT specialty burger.
Yeah.
Hungry Bear. So like a BLT specialty burger, but they called it an HBLT. Let's see. The churro cart had a blueberry cheesecake churro. That sounds good.
Yeah.
I probably should have tried that.
I should have done that.
Strawberry dusted popcorn and Fantasyland, Sloppy Joe specialty burger, which is what I had, butterscotch frozen yogurt shake over at the Red Rose, Mickey pretzel with cheese. That's not that special. Gummy berry juice. How did I miss that?
We missed that one.
Oh, we're idiots. At the Troubadour Tavern. Oh, Yums. Over by Videopolis.
That would have been adorable.
Had gummy berry juice. Oh, I wonder how that was.
I wish I would have went to Yums.
Totally chocolate churro in Frontierland.
Oh my God.
That's it. So they had, a lot of themed food. It is funny when they theme food to the 80s. Although, totally random off topic, kind of related, but did you see Dunkaroos are coming back?
No.
I totally forgot about Dunkaroos.
Me too.
And I think I saw on the news like they're coming back. And
dear.
I've been seeing people post a lot of the old commercials. It's like, I 1,000% forgot about these, but holy crap, the nostalgia's kicking in looking at these commercials.
Right, I completely.
Dunkaroos, man. Whipped churro, marshmallow fluff dipping sauce.
Oh my God.
So yeah, there were definitely lots of themed food. Listen, there's only so much you can eat, is what I'll say, number one. And, what I got was fine. It didn't rock my world. It wasn't like, oh, I wish this was here all the time.
Exactly, it was the same way.
But it was good. And then, of course, there's merchandise, which I didn't get any of, and I'm always shocked. We walked by a long line at one point heading into the Star Wars launch bay, and I was like, hey, what are you guys waiting for? And it was like, oh, merch. And I was like, I couldn't believe how long the line was.
It was ridiculous.
I gotta be honest, the merch was not that great.
Not at all.
And I sometimes find Disney to be lazy with their special event merch because the attitude's kind of like, okay, we're only printing a very limited supply.
Right.
It's one night only.
Right.
And therefore, that's that. And I think they have the attitude of, there are Disney fans who will buy this just because it's a one night only event. So therefore, they had a couple t-shirts with the logo of the event, which was fine.
Right.
They had a Videopolis pin.
Yeah.
And they had a Videopolis light up tumbler. None of it particularly exciting, I will say. So, some people really like the merch. Didn't rock my world all that much.
Not really.
Anything else you want to add specifically about the event? Aside from Videopolis, what else did you love?
I mean, it's always a special feeling to go to Disneyland after dark, or at least
after normal operating hours.
And everyone's out.
Because it is dead. I will say, now, the cool thing is, and this is my tip, some people don't do this. Some people will ride rides all night long.
Yeah.
I always say, ride the rides during that 6 to 9 p.m. period before the event officially starts, where it is quiet, because I think, if I'm remembering correctly, the park actually closed at 8. So from 8 to 9, there was kind of this limbo period of kicking out the people that didn't have special event tickets, yet the event hadn't specifically started. So especially at 8 p.m., lines were dead. I think we did Indiana Jones in like 10 minutes, right?
Yeah.
So the lines are really quiet. Take advantage of them then. During the event, they're super quiet, but there's so much specialty stuff going on that even if you don't frequent Disneyland, I would say don't do the rides.
I agree with
but
you.
But some people do the rides. But it is always cool to go, during a special night when the lines are short.
Yeah, it makes it easier.
So, so that's fun. Anything you hated about 80s Night?
I mean, the biggest thing is, I would just say, more things to do.
Yeah, I would agree. There wasn't... there is a lot to do if you think about, frankly, if you want to meet all the characters, you don't have time to.
Right.
So there's a lot to do in that sense. I guess for me, the priority is always live entertainment. What are you going to do? And by the way, speaking of live entertainment, and we're talking about characters earlier, and I probably mentioned this on 90s Night, I really 1,000% require from now on, get rid of the fireworks. Give me a character cavalcade.
Yes.
I just want to see these quote-unquote specialty characters. And if you just ride them down Main Street on the parade route with the Main Street vehicles at the start of the event, or even they could have done it at like 8:30 or 8:45 because the park was closed at that point.
Completely.
And just... that would do it for me. And then if people want to take photos, they can take photos with them during the event. But at least give people, that would give you more entertainment, and it would really shorten character lines, I bet.
Well, so you said that.
Why am I not producing these events?
Good question.
Oh, gosh.
Well, you had said that exactly, and I agreed with you. It's like little things like that. If we had that mini parade at the beginning, if we did more of just these little special things, I think it would have made the night a little bit more exciting.
If those three things had happened, Captain EO,
yes,
Roger Rabbit's cartoon spin, and a character cavalcade,
yes,
I might think, worth $109.
Yeah, completely.
I don't think, first of all, let's just talk about a year ago during 90s Night, $99. So it's gone up $10 in 1 year. Did not sell out, as we mentioned.
Yeah.
They are testing the waters. Disney is always testing those waters of how much can we charge before people stop coming.
Yeah.
$109 might have been it. I mean, that's pretty much... That's a normal park day ticket, and we're talking about you have access to the park for 7 hours.
Yeah.
And that's a big difference between 7 hours and 12 hours, or even 10 hours. You know, $109 is a lot.
Well, my whole thing is, I said it before, like, if you didn't want to go to Videopolis, if you didn't want to dance, you would have, I think you would have been bored.
Unless you wanted to meet characters. Characters can 1,000% take up your entire night. But let's face it, you were not going to spend the entire night eating food.
Exactly.
I don't think you could eat that much. Like, you'd be very sick if you did.
Yes.
You could spend the entire night riding rides, but if you're paying $109 for that, I think you're crazy.
Yeah. I also would have thought just something small is more of the dancers in Videopolis. You know, maybe on the half hour they do it as something different.
I would listen if they had been out for the 4 hours. I honestly probably would have spent 3 of the hours there if they had been performing nonstop. They were amazing.
And I'm not discrediting this at all, but they came out every hour and they did the same exact dance move.
Totally.
But
it was the same song, which I don't regret because I loved the song.
Yeah.
And I get it. The mentality is, we will be cycling through people, and it'll be a different group of people.
Yeah.
Little did they know that we became a little obsessed with Videopolis, so therefore we kept coming back. I think they did do one other different song at the end. What song was it? I can't even remember.
Oh gosh, I don't remember I know it was different. It was a different dance
It was a different song at the end. But $109. That's an expensive ticket.
Yeah. I mean, I'm okay with spending $109 to see live entertainment like that. You know, if there was more dancing, more shows.
Yeah, what I would say is, and I think I said this last year, is if you're going to go to a Disneyland After Dark event, just make sure it's something you're very much interested in.
Oh, completely.
Like Sweethearts Night, I have zero interest. So, like meeting the characters and their couples, like, I don't care.
Well, my whole thing is they're doing Pixar Night. I'm like, why would you spend $109 to go to Pixar Night when they just opened a Pixar Pier at Disney California Adventure?
And I think it's happening at DCA, or is it happening in Disneyland? I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm not
Actually,
sure.
They advertise them in this pamphlet. I don't know if it says where, though. Let's see. Pixar Night is happening at Disney California Adventure Park.
Yeah.
So, by the way, the rest of this year, February 12th and 13th, we have Sweethearts Night at Disneyland Park, Pixar Night on March 5th over at DCA, Villains Night April 30th in DCA, and Star Wars Night is in August 27th in Disneyland Park. Smart thing about Star Wars Night is it coincides with Star Wars Celebration, which will be at the Anaheim Convention Center, so I'm sure that will sell out, and that's very smart, and obviously they have an entire land to take advantage of. In that case, they better keep, by the way, Rise of the Resistance was not open during 80s Night. They did let you know in advance when you purchased your tickets.
Yeah.
If it's not open during Star Wars Night, then we got a problem. It definitely should be by August.
Yeah, totally.
But, yeah, I would just say, if you're going to spend the money, just make sure it's something you're really interested in.
Oh, completely.
I wonder if there are people who just like kind of have that, Disney fans are like, I got to have it all. I got to do it all. I'm curious if there's anybody that... I'm sure there's somebody that does it, especially bloggers and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
But the only other one I'd be curious about here is like Villains Night is... Star Wars Night does interest me. I'd be kind of curious. But Villains Night, I'm interested, but I'm also like... Oogie Boogie Bash is probably better and about the same price.
Yeah, if you've done that, then why would you do it?
Listen, if they bring back Villains Grove for Villains Night, which I doubt they will because it's a pretty long setup... But if they did that...
You would do it again, though?
Villains Night?
Yeah.
Probably not.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. I'm not running to another Disneyland. The decades, in the 80s, the 90s, if they do an early 2000s, I'll be there. Oh, and they're playing the NSYNC. Oh my gosh. You know what 90s Night didn't have any of, and they really should have? MMC, the new Mickey Mouse Club.
Oh my God! Why would
They didn't
do that?
They didn't do anything MMC related at 90s Night.
That's a shame.
And that's a miss,
That's a big
I would
miss.
say. So, I don't know if these decades, the first year of Disneyland After Dark, they did kind of, I forget what they called it, but it was basically like Dapper Day, which is an unofficial
Right,
Disney
yeah,
day,
you were saying
but
that.
they did an official version, so it was like a 50s, 60s theme.
Yeah.
So they seem to be playing with these decades. If they go 70s, I'm out. Sorry. Not only was there not great Disney content in the 70s, but on top of that,
No.
I don't like the 70s. I don't like the style. I don't like the color palette. Ooh, I hate the music.
Well, the other thing I wanted to say too was I've noticed that a lot of people, at least from what I perceive, is that they just like to get dressed up in these decade periods and just go to Disneyland.
Yeah, people love that.
Yeah.
I always say if I ever do a Dapper Day again or one of those, I really want to dress up as Dick Tracy.
Oh my God!
Because he has like the full suit and stuff, but that
Yes.
yellow coat and hat is
That-
so dapper.
beyond.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
It's so good.
That was 80s too, wasn't it? Dick
Yeah, he
Tracy?
came out in the 80s.
Oh my gosh, if there had been a Dick Tracy meet and greet.
Oh my
They
God!
used to do
have that,
they used to
right?
do the show calling Dick
Dick
Tracy. Oh my gosh. If they had done a Dick Tracy, was that the 80s or the 90s?
I believe it was.
IMDb
No,
this-
it was the 90s.
Was it the 90s?
Yeah.
Then why wasn't it 90s Night? Whatever it was. Oh my gosh. By the way, in the Videopolis stage was
Yeah.
once the Dick Tracy show at Disneyland.
At Disneyland? They had it out in Disneyland?
They had it at Disneyland, and it was on the Videopolis stage.
Oh my!
Yeah, I
there
know.
you go. These missed opportunities.
Well, I wouldn't give up Videopolis for the Dick Tracy show,
No, no,
but
no.
a Dick Tracy meet and greet, I would have been all over.
Right in that line.
Yeah.
Right in that line. Ewoks, Dick Tracy.
Okay, so Dick Tracy was 1990, so yeah, that should have been part of 90s Night, I feel like. That would have been great. So, overall, I'd say I had a great time.
I
It was
did.
a nice night. It was windy and a little chilly, but like appropriate, I would say.
Beyond, yeah.
And other than fireworks being canceled, that was a major disappointment.
Yeah.
I will say I had a lot more fun at 90s Night, I would say. I don't
Yeah.
know if it's just the decade I relate to more or something, but I felt like there was more to do. These events are fun. Just, if $109 is a lot of money to you, just be smart about which event you're going to spend it on.
Yeah.
It needs to be a theme you're super interested in, is
Exactly.
what I would say. So,
Yeah.
anything else you want to add before we get some trivia?
Well, the biggest thing is that I agree with you. I totally enjoyed myself. I loved it. But would I pay $109 again for it? Probably not.
Yeah, and it's on a school night,
Yeah, I came into work next day very late.
Yeah.
Because I stayed out too late.
but it's all right. It's all right.
It was worth it.
It was 80s Night.
Yeah.
All right. Let's get to some trivia, shall we?
Okay.
Do you know the answer? Get your brain gears churning and play along. It's trivia time.
All right, Derek, do you want to hit me with a trivia question first, or shall I hit you?
You hit me first.
Okay, I even forget what I asked. Oh, don't look at my thing. Okay.
The answer.
What year
Uh-huh.
were ticket books replaced at Disneyland by passports? So back in the day, ticket books were when you had individual tickets per ride, and then at a certain year, probably in the 80s, considering our theme today,
Gonna say.
they removed ticket books and added passports, which would get you on everything, which is what we're used to today.
I don't know this, but I'm gonna say 1982.
Ding, 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 ding. The year of E.T., 1982.
Really?
Yes.
Oh,
Not that E.T. has anything to do with Disney, but when you say
guessed
1980,
this.
listen, 1982 is the year of E.T., 1985 is the year of Back to the Future, and 1989 is the year of Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. That's just how my brain works.
So you base everything off?
Yeah, pretty
Wow,
much.
no, I just guessed on that one.
1982, which is, so 38 years now.
Wow.
It's been passports. Before that,
Yeah.
you still had the ticket books, which to me is like, when I think of ticket books, I think, oh, that back in Walt's day.
Yes,
I'm like,
yeah.
so from 66 is when Walt passed away through 82,
Right.
they're still doing ticket books.
That's crazy.
That is nuts.
Wow.
That's wild. So yeah, 1982, very good.
Wow.
What's your question for me?
Okay. Can you name one of the stars in Totally Mini?
Totally mini. Like there was like proper celebrities, or like you're, like Goofy or something.
There's two main characters with Minnie Mouse.
So like animated characters.
No, real life action.
Real life
characters.
people.
Yeah.
And they were famous, or they're famous now?
They're famous, yeah.
Oh gosh. Totally mini. So were they kind of like VJs? Like, what did they do in the show?
There was a guy, and he was a nerd, and he sees this infomercial of Totally Mini. It's like a cool school, and he goes to this place, and the woman, giving a spoiler away, she's basically the tour guide.
So we got a tour guide and a nerd.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with the nerd is John Ritter.
No.
No?
Good guess.
The nerd.
I was thinking of the female. I should have said the female tour guide.
Female tour guide is Bonnie Hunt.
Oh.
Only
close.
because I'm only thinking that Rosie O'Donnell.
No.
Oh, okay.
No.
The people are going to be like, wait a second, how did you go from Bonnie Hunt to Rosie O'Donnell when he said close? I went
Talk
there.
show host?
Talk show host.
Yeah,
That's essentially where my brain went. But I guarantee somebody was like, how did you make that jump?
Yeah.
No, the reason I said Bonnie Hunt is because she has that famous tour guide role in the movie Dave, and we're walking.
Okay. Yeah,
we're walking, so that's what made me think that. Okay, so who would it be? I have no idea.
It is Suzanne Summers.
Suzanne Summers as the tour guide?
Yeah.
Suzanne Summers is the tour guide who. So this would have been the 80s.
Yeah.
So she was famous because she had done Three's Company in the 70s. Okay, and who was the nerd?
Robert Carradine.
Robert Carradine, who was the main nerd in Revenge of the Nerds. He played the nerd on the show. Alrighty.
Yes.
Okay, and Timothy Busfield was also a nerd. You know Timothy Busfield?
No.
He's the redhead nerd.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, so he is. I have quote unquote worked with him, not really, but kind of.
Really?
Back in the day when I first moved to LA, I did like background work,
Yeah.
and I worked a lot on that show, Studio 60 on the Sunset Strip,
Right.
which is it's my favorite Aaron Sorkin show. It only lasted one season, partially because of a writer's strike. It was brilliant. Get it on DVD if you haven't seen it. But in any case, he was on that show. And he directed a lot of episodes of that show. So when I was doing background, I would very often be in a room with him just kind of chatting. And he's a cool guy.
That's awesome.
And if you do get Studio 60 on the Sunset Strip, I guarantee you will see me very obviously in at least one episode.
I remember you showed me that.
I actually forgot I was in it.
Did you really?
Yeah, like I subliminally knew. I remembered working on it, but I forgot that I was like so obvious in an episode. And I was watching it over with a friend I was introducing it to. I was like, "Oh, that's me!" It was
There
shocking.
I am.
Yeah, it was very funny. But in any case, well, that was fun. Thank you for
Yes,
coming
of
on and
course.
talking
Thank you for having me.
80s. So much fun. And if it's 70s, sorry, we're not going to do it again.
No.
If it's 90s night,
I
might go.
I have to do it because I didn't do it last year.
Yeah, I would be very curious as to. I would have to see if they made changes.
Yeah.
That's what I have to do.
But it's Disney. You know there'll be changes, but it will be epic.
Yeah, they'll be like, less characters. I don't know. But Powerline show, honestly, that was, gosh, now we're going into the 90s and 10. But that was, I mean, if they didn't know Powerline was going to be a massive success, I'm like, you're crazy.
Right.
I was like, why didn't you just do a Powerline show in the Fantasyland Theater, which was not being used that night for anything except for maybe meet and greets. I was like, you should have done a show there and like not had a meet and greet.
Did they actually do that in the 90s? Did they have a Powerline show?
No.
Okay.
No, I'm just saying they should have done something. They did do one recently at Disneyland Paris, and by recently I mean like a year or two ago.
Oh, wow.
So like they have a soundtrack and everything.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
They did it for a special event night over at the Walt Disney Studios Park, and I can't remember what the night was celebrating.
Wow.
But in any case, it happened. But in any case, happy 1980s.
Thank you, 80s.
It was wonderful to relive it and remember only the good stuff about it.
Yeah.
And be introduced to this place called Videopolis. I'll meet you at the top.
I'll be right there with my suspenders.
I hope you all enjoyed traveling back to the 80s with us and that this episode was helpful if you've ever considered going to a Disneyland After Dark event. Don't forget to tune in to a new episode of the House of Mouse Headlines this Sunday, bringing you the latest Disney news right to your podcast feed. And as this podcast episode ends, take a moment and head over to patreon.com/DisneyCTC to see how you can help to make sure that there are always new episodes of Disney Coast to Coast and get rewarded at the same time. Other than that, folks, have a magical day. Bye! Thanks for listening to Disney Coast to Coast. Have a magical day.
Disney Coast to Coast is produced and hosted by Jeff DePauli. Learn more about the podcast and become a supporter at DisneyCoastToCoast.com.